If you're getting to grips with being a new project manager or team lead, you're going to need to understand the relationship between requirements, scope, and deliverables. What are these three and how do they relate? Coming up next on Project Skills Mentor, I'm going to share some models and some detailed information to help you get started. Today we're talking about the differences and the relationship between requirements, scope, and deliverables. And of course, they obviously relate. But how? Well, let me start by showing you this model. Essentially, requirements are that moment when you're asking your stakeholders what their needs and wants are. This is brainstorming though. It doesn't mean that every single requirement will make sense and go together. This is often done in a workshop format. The purpose of this workshop is to make sure everyone involved, all the stakeholders, including key users, understand this process, the use case, what the outcome is they're looking for, and the persona. That is the amalgamation of the user you expect to service with this product or solution. So once you have your persona and you start to understand their ecosystem and then start to get those requirements listed, you're going to want to group those, and maybe you'll want to group them in a specific way to kind of create some structure to the process of understanding how these requirements relate to what I call alignment. There's business alignment, the company that's going to be offering this solution or service or product. How does this set of requirements align to that company? Next, the value alignment. What value does this bring to the marketplace? Is this something new, just a little bit better, or completely disruptive? Understanding the value you're going to bring to the marketplace can be really helpful in honing which requirements are most important. Next, product alignment. Is this product or solution like others that you're already delivering from this company? And if not, how will you service the new data, processes, people, and technology necessary to make sure this is deliverable? Making sure your alignment is good can help you understand, okay, these processes for this product are going to be business related, customer related, product related, and market value related. Understanding this can help you hone in on those important parts you want to bring forward to the next step, which is scope. But before I move on, let me just share that I've got a 12-step process to collecting requirements available in my blog. The link will be below. So for any new project manager or team lead, you need to remember an important quote: how to manage a project, limit its scope, make it simple, get success, then iterate. So when you're talking about scope, think about what you need to do for the first iteration of the project. There may be a list of 100 things that came out of requirements, and they all are great ideas and they all do fit together. But do you need to do them all at once? Big Bang was something done in the 90s, but it's not as often done today. Iterative approaches where users can use a base product that is workable but doesn't have all the bells and whistles is a much more fluid way of managing. And also you can learn a lot along the way to find out what's really necessary and make sure you have all the supporting components, the data, the processes, and the people to support that full solution. When you come to scope, you'll want to take those requirements you accept in that first iteration of the product, solution, or outcome, and then document it. Document it with words, but also with pictures. It really helps for people to see what it is you're talking about. The more you can be graphic, that is, making a picture of the outcome, the better people will be able to validate that idea before you even have done one line of work, 1 hour of code writing, whatever it is. You want to make sure, because designing on paper is much cheaper than any other kind of design you can get, and it really makes a difference to help the user understand what their final product is going to look like. So you start to set expectations, but also get expectations back on what's working and what's not. But as you start to look at scope, there's another aspect. There's underpinning content that needs to be discussed, such as what technology, what data, the size of the data, the scope of the data itself. Are you going to do 1 country or 5? Knowing this helps you structure your data for the long term and make sure you're sizing up technology correctly. But you also need to think about documentation, training, stage gate deliverables if there's approval processes that require certain documentation. You may also need to think about communications, making sure your users and others know what's going to happen and know the outcome and impact to them. Now that you've got your scope, you want to confirm it with your project stakeholders. Making sure your project stakeholders accept this scope is really important before you go on to the next step, deliverables. Now there's a couple of key steps when creating deliverables that I want to talk about. The first one is be clear about what you need to deliver, when you need to deliver it, and who needs to deliver it. Be clear about parameters within the company. So make sure you know what those forms, processes, sign-offs, etc. look like. And if you don't have any of this codified in your organization or for your project, check out my project toolkit, because that's going to help you create all the documentation you need to baseline your project. Very simple, very easy to use, and also you can get started right away with my free downloadable. So as part of getting ready for your product deliverables, you're going to want to make a checklist, something like this, that shows what are all the deliverables associated with your project. Now you might want to do this, of course, in your project planning to show exactly who, when, and where in the steps of all of your project management work this deliverable is delivered. But nonetheless, you want to have a big picture, and literally I often make it a big picture in the room the team is working in to show them what is our outcome. Definitely think about data in terms of the size of the data, the shape of the data, how you'll test the data, how you'll cut over the data, all of that. Process maps, understanding process maps, whether you're doing just a process project or a technology project too. Make sure the process maps work, test them. You're also going to often change roles and responsibilities, how people relate to each other, how people work together. Make sure that's documented so that when you start rolling out the project, you're ready for training. And of course, all of your sign-off documents, all of those stage gates along the way where your customer, your user, or your testers approved the product, you're going to want to have those bundled as a final deliverable. And an important point is the cutover plan. Often cutover from a product to a live situation demands that something be taken out and something new be added in. That's your product or solution. Doing that can be very fiddly, so you want to make sure you're doing this with rigor and with good planning and thinking of everything you can to mitigate the risk of having something go wrong during cutover. And finally, that maintenance manual I mentioned earlier. This is key for letting that new organization that's going to be managing or doing the work understand the mechanics of how you put it together. Whether that's a process or a product, they'll need to understand kind of the underpinning, the assumptions, or the way that the product was put together. Making this checklist right from the beginning, right when you're building your requirements, understanding your scope, and designing your deliverables can help you keep your eye on the prize and make sure your project doesn't forget an important deliverable right at the last moment. So there's value in this process, understanding how to get from requirements to scope to deliverables. And if you found value in this video, please give it a like. Consider subscribing and share this information with others who may need it, maybe others on your project. And I'd like to leave you with this video on my Project Manager's Toolkit, and I'll see you next time on ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Thanks everybody, bye-bye.